they're not your responsibility, so you can spoil them and then hand them back.
Yeah. Typical grandmother. Welcome to A Cup of Tea with Bree, where I get to know some of North Queensland's most amazing parents, incredible business people and inspiring characters. Now today I have the pleasure of interviewing Cathy O'Toole, who is the first woman to hold a federation seat. She was elected to Parliament in 2016 as the Labor member for Herbert and holds strong passion for the region. How are you today, Cathy?
I'm very well, thank you, Bree.
It's great to have you in for a cup of tea.
Thank you very much.
Did we make it all right?
It's perfect.
Good. So today I want to get to know all about you. So tell me first about your childhood. Where were you born? Tell me about your brothers and sisters. Tell me about...
So I was born here in Townsville.
Wow.
And I've lived here in Townsville all but 3.5 years of my life.
Wow. So it's like 21 years.
Yes, that would be nice. I'm the oldest of 5 children.
5, wow.
Yes, my mother, a very brave woman, had 5 children in 7 years.
Oh my gosh. So, that would have been chaos.
Yeah, well...
Any twins?
No.
No twins?
No, they were all individual births. And she ran a tight ship.
I bet.
So my father worked in the railway here.
Oh.
So he worked his entire life in the railway through the clerical and administration positions into management in Brisbane when he retired.
Wow. So it was life growing up with 4 siblings?
Well, it was really good because we had 2 girls, 2 boys, and then unfortunately for my younger sister, she was on her own at the end. But I went to St Mary's School, West End, primary school.
Okay.
And I did my whole 7 years of primary school there. And then I went to St Patrick's College on the Strand for my secondary education.
Wow.
So I guess in those days I was really lucky because midway through my primary years, Laverack came to town. So we had a very transient population, which was new to Townsville. And I guess in those days I was one of the lucky people who was able to do all of my education in 2 schools. Because in the forces, where we had a lot of kids in the forces in our schools, they were moving around quite often, every 2 years. And that must be a dreadful strain on families, I think.
Definitely. So being the eldest, what did that mean?
Oh, lots of responsibility. I think as the oldest child, you assume a lot of responsibility that you don't actually need to. Look, we had a very, I suppose, well, we had a lot of fun as kids, and those days you were outdoors, so we weren't inside on technology. I remember when we got TV, so we didn't have technology like young people have today, so we spent all of our spare time outside. My mother, with the support of my father, believed in us being very busy, so I learnt speech and drama and ballet, and my brothers played soccer, so there was the running around to all of the activities for all of us, which was fun. So, I remember having a really good childhood.
That's wonderful. So what did you want to be then when you grew up?
Well, all of my primary school years and probably right through my high school years, I always wanted to be a hairdresser.
Okay. My
mother wanted me to be a domestic science teacher. Just a little bit of difference there, but I actually won out. So when I was in year 11, about 3/4 of the way through year 11, I got offered an apprenticeship.
Okay.
And I took it. So, and that was the beginning of my working career. So I was about 16 and a half, I think. And then when I got into my apprenticeship in my second year, my mum bought the business from the woman who owned the business, and then she and I were partners. So I guess in effect, under the leadership of my mother, I was self-employed from the age of 18.
Wow.
And my mother was an extremely good business person and a very good teacher. So she did her apprenticeship behind me.
Yeah.
But from the business perspective.
Oh, so then she learned to be a hairdresser too?
She did. And
wow, what an incredible woman. So she had 5 children, and then how old was she when she...
She would have been in her 40s.
Went and got an apprenticeship.
And in her second year, I think she won an international award, a scholarship.
Wow.
But of course, with 5 children
and
a business, she just couldn't trot off overseas and
do that.
And use the scholarship. But that's what a great thing to win.
How amazing though that she didn't want you to be. She wanted you to be a science teacher, and was anti being a hairdresser for you, but then came on herself, and you worked together and had a business.
She wasn't really anti it, but my mother always has been obsessed with education.
Okay.
Education was our ticket. We grew up in Garbutt, down near the airport until I was in high school. We moved to Belgian Gardens. And I think my mother did junior high school but didn't get to do senior herself.
Okay.
My father was the same. He did year 10, and they always had a passion, but particularly my mother, that education was so critically important. So they went without quite a lot actually to ensure that all of us had the best opportunities possible.
Yeah, wow.
In education, and I think that paid off. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to be in the position I'm in. My next sister is the executive principal of Kerwin State High. My next brother is principal of St Patrick Shorncliffe. My next brother is traffic controller in the railway and trainer in that space, and my younger sister's a family law barrister.
Wow,
So
proud mum.
So she's, with Dad, pushed us
Yes.
along the way to, that your best is what you must deliver.
Wow.
All the time.
That's incredible. She must be really proud.
I think she is, but I think she can take some of the credit.
Yes.
Because without her guidance and, the same with Dad, we wouldn't have had the opportunities. They wouldn't have created the opportunities.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was a teacher. Mum's mother was a teacher. So that sort of thread of education's always been there.
So what happened after that, after the hairdressing business?
I met my husband overseas. As soon as I finished my apprenticeship, I went overseas for a couple of years to work and to do more study in my profession overseas. And I met my husband over there, and then he came back and we got married, and then Mum had 2 businesses, then we bought them off her. He did his apprenticeship so we could run the businesses ourselves.
Wow.
And then I always said, after my first year of trade training in Brisbane, so our apprenticeship was done by correspondence and then 3 weeks a year for 3 years in Brisbane, and I always said I'm going to teach at Kangaroo Point College. I just had that in the back of my head. So when our children, they weren't school age, I applied to teach at TAFE, and in those days it was an excellent program. Labor State Government ran it. We had 6 months in the college learning the practical skills of teaching, and then 6 months at the College of Advanced Education, Mount Gravatt, doing the theoretical component. So we graduated with a diploma of teaching TAFE. And so I did that. That was for 2 years. And Dennis looked after the kids, worked part-time, but, it's long hours. He looked after the kids and supported me to do that. And then when I finished, I did my 2 years part-time and got a Bachelor of Education.
Wow.
So that was, interesting, hard work. But I did my education, unlike my brothers and sisters, as an adult with a family.
Wow. So then you were a teacher for how many years?
I taught at TAFE for probably the 2 years of training, nearly 4 years. And I worked in the trade, but I also got involved in labour market programs, in training and assessment, teaching, training and assessment. Then I got into curriculum design. I really liked that part of it. So I did curriculum design across a whole range of industries. And then I set up my own training company. So at that time I did some consultancy work as well. So I remember really interesting work I did was with the engineering industry in the days when we had industry training and advisory boards, ITABs. And the engineering industry was coming from 365 classifications down to 15. And I worked with the ITAB and developed their record training book for their apprentices. So I have the technical skills to do that, not the industry skills. So I worked with them very closely. It was really interesting work. Really, really interesting. So,
how did you get into politics then?
Well, after I sold my training company, I decided to have the opportunity, saw an ad and applied for a job in the community mental health sector in employment. So I thought, that would be interesting because my vocational education and training background would translate nicely into that space. And at the time, I think it was in 2006, John Howard introduced welfare to work. And that was directly impacting on the people I was working with. So we were a specialist disability employment service assisting people with, complex mental health conditions to get work. And it was an impossible policy. It was really punitive, it was difficult, and it didn't really help people. So I'm not one to complain about something without doing something about it. So my youngest sister, has long history with the Labor Party of involvement. So I went to the branch meeting and joined up, and that was my mission, to do something about that.
Yeah.
So that's what got me there, and it was really about, it wasn't socially inclusive, it wasn't fair, and as a person who had to administrate and implement that policy, it was simply impossible. It was really difficult. So that was probably the trigger.
Yeah, wow. So what's life been like then in politics?
Well, it's incredibly busy. So I have the huge respect for women who do this job, and men with children, but generally speaking in our community at the moment, most of the workload falls on mothers. But it's a very rewarding job. It's a real privilege and an honour to serve your community. It really is, because you are elected by the population. And my job, as I see it, is to ensure that our voice is heard loudly and clearly in Canberra. So that's the way we run the office. I have a number of reference groups, so I bring the experts in to talk with me about what the policy issues are, so that I can make sure when I go to Canberra and speak on behalf of this community, I'm delivering the right message.
Good for you. So then what's something that most people don't know about you then? You've shared a little bit. I'm sure there's something...
don't know or have been shocked when they discover I have children.
Wow.
And I have 3 kids. My oldest son is 38, and I have a 37-year-old, and I have a 27-year-old, so I have a big gap.
Big gap, yep.
And I have 5 grandchildren.
Wow. So why are people surprised that you have children?
I
Because you've always been a career woman?
I don't know. I remember when my daughter first started work at Headspace, and someone put our last names together, and they said, "Oh, are you related to Cathy O'Toole?" And we said, "She's my mother." And they went, "Really? She's got children?" Louise said, "I think so, I'm here."
I think she's my mum.
Yeah. So I think I don't know, it's how people perceive you, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I'm not actually a person who talks a lot about
Your private
myself.
life.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like having 5 grandchildren.
Oh, they're beautiful. Yeah. 3 of them, unfortunately, live in Brisbane and 2 here. But, grandchildren are the joy of your life, because you can really enjoy them. They're not your responsibility, so you can spoil them and then hand them back.
Yeah. Typical grandmother.
which is really wonderful.
Usually full of sugar, is that right?
Oh no, I'm a bit obsessed about that. Yeah, no, my grandkids know, the 2 that live here, when we go out, if there's fairy floss, not a chance.
Yeah.
No fairy
Unless it's
floss.
at the end of the night before you hand them back, right?
Well, not even then. So, but it's just amazing to watch young people develop.
Yeah.
And they just grow so quickly.
They sure do.
They're smart.
They sure are. So tell me, what's one of the proudest things that of your achievements that you've got then?
Well, I think over my life, where this is my 5th career in actual fact, probably winning the Cedar Herbert would be my proudest moment, given that it took 115 years for a woman to hold the seat, and that Labor hadn't held the seat for 20 years. And we had a 6.2% margin, which is large. I think that moment I share with the people who work with me, because you can't do it on your own.
No.
There is no way you can do it on your own. And I had a really good group of young and other age group people working with me to achieve that win for Labor. I think out of all of my working life, that's probably the most significant professional achievement.
And what about personal?
Personally, for me, there have been a lot of things. I think personally, some of my personal things flow into my professional life. I've always been driven by social inclusion, social justice. So some of the work that I did in the mental health space, I've been really personally proud of. But I think, in all honesty, my kids and my family would be my greatest personal achievement, because balancing between work and family and raising children, and my view is I wanted to raise, and as my husband did, really good human beings. What they do is not such a big issue for me, so long as they're happy in what they do and they do it to the best of their capacity. But I've always wanted to raise kids who are good citizens, who care about other people, and it's not just all about them. And I think my kids are just that.
That's beautiful. What's your advice to parents out there, I guess?
Look, I think it's times have changed, but in some ways they haven't. If we are to build resilient children, we need to give them the opportunity to live life. So, you know, making mistakes is not a bad thing. You know, failing at something, if you learn from it and you assess it and you're honest with yourself about what went wrong, what else could you have done, and how do you prevent it from happening again, I think is really important. But kids need space to be children. They need time. They don't need every second of their life filled up. They need time to explore, be curious about life and the world. Obviously, we have to keep our children safe. That's, you know, that goes without saying. But to build resilience, kids need a few knocks so they can learn. It's hard as
parents to watch, isn't it? But if we don't allow them to do that and wrap them in cotton wool, we're sending them out to the wide world.
And it's a tough world.
After that, yeah, absolutely. So if you could have dinner with 3 people, whether past or present, who would they be and why?
I would be very interested and would love to have had dinner with Nelson Mandela because he is a person of contrasting character, like he'd been on both sides of his argument. And I would be really curious to know how someone could be imprisoned for so long, grow so much, be so forgiving, and not allow the walls of the prison to dictate who he is. That I would love to understand.
Yeah.
I also would like to have the time to learn more about Julia Gillard. I'm particularly interested in, if I have the opportunity to have some time with her, to understand how do you get up every day, put the best face on, do your best work, continue to lead this nation when you have just been attacked viciously every single day from your male opposition. I'm really curious to see how she did that with such dignity, and did not, like when they went low, she went high, to use Michelle Obama's words. And I think that's really important. And probably the other side of the other person who I would really like to have dinner with, probably in Australia, and I do have time to talk with him, but not a lot of time, is probably, well, it's 3 of them actually, my First Nations colleagues, Linda Burney, Malarndirri McCarthy and Patrick Donson, to really understand the journey that they've undertaken, because I think all of them, maybe not Malarndirri, were not considered Australian citizens. I know Linda wasn't till she was 10. You know, what was life like that? And now look at her, the first Nations woman elected to the House of Representatives, and she's a shadow minister. So, and an incredible human being, as they all are. But just to understand that journey, and because I doubt very much that it was easy.
Yeah.
So probably there's loads of people, but they're the people.
Still a good politician there. I gave her 3, she's taken 5. No, 6, I can't even do maths right. No, it's 5. Yeah,
5, yeah.
So what's the best piece of advice then you've ever been given?
I think over the years I've done a lot of training and a lot of study, and I think in one course I did that's helped me for many years was not to listen to or be concerned about what people say about you, because you have absolutely no control over it. And I live by that, particularly in this job.
I bet. Because it must be hard sometimes.
Well, I consciously ensure that it isn't. I know from my children sometimes it is. But I'm very fortunate. I have excellent staff that look after the media and, you know, a whole range of issues in the office. They're absolutely wonderful people. And I don't have to be too focused on that space. My job is to be out there doing my job, talking with people and advocating on behalf of this city. But I really don't get engaged in that negativity. What could I do about it? Absolutely nothing. I am often curious, though, if people would ever have the courage to come and say to my face what they say online. Yes, I'd welcome that actually for some people. Yeah. Because I think a keyboard warrior is a brave person because they don't have to look you in the eye.
Yeah. There we go. I think that's a great piece of advice to leave on as well. So good luck with the campaign, and thanks for sharing your story with us today. It was great to get to know you a little bit better and keyboard warriors. Come and say hi. Have a cup of tea with her.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
If you'd like to see more of our episodes, and make sure you subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on a new episode of A Cup of Tea with Bree. See you next time.